So that's what the goal is for this challenge. And thank you all for being here. Feel free to comment to leave a comment saying, hey, where you're from, and or what business you're in. This is day two. Yesterday was day one. I sort of gave a little introduction about what brought me here, and in the replay, I talked a little more about our offers. What is it that we actually sell? What is it that we are doing? And gave a couple strategies to make that clearer. So, one idea was thinking about the problems you actually solve in people's lives, and also the outcome that people can get by working with you or by getting your product or your service. So let me start the presentation once I get my screens correct. And if I press presenter view, cool. So, one, feel free to put in the comments where you're from and what business you're in. I am also going to pull up a. Yeah, and if you're watching on the Facebook, there is a link to join this Zoom webinar, so you can come in here, and it'll be easier for me to see your questions and know you're watching than to look there. Also, if you're here for the replay at a later time, feel free to still do the same. Put your questions in the comments and share what's going on so we can keep connecting in a community. So let me share my screen and hit share. Cool. So welcome to day two of the Launch with Pride Challenge. Helping queer entrepreneurs grow their impact and income using strategies that I've learned through challenge marketing. So this is day two, and welcome. So yesterday there was an assignment. I talked about this a little bit, but like, what service or products does your business provide? Top problems your business solves, and what are some tangible outcomes of your product in the life of your customer? Yesterday in Hot Seat, we had Michelle come up and join, and she was talking about how she provides a lot of financial banking services. And we sort of said, okay, what's the most popular service that you have? And then talked about what that does for the customer. And in our conversation, she was able to get more clarity in saying how to make that into a little mini story, how to say, this is the service, but here's what it actually provides in your life. So like banking credit isn't just about, I don't know, having access to cash or money, but it's about creating momentum in your business if you don't have the financial resources. And that sort of just came out as we were talking and answering some of these types of questions. So yesterday's homework was to do this and put it in the group. Some people have not done that yet, but if you do, we can definitely give comments and see how we can help you in that way. So, but today we're talking about another aspect of marketing. So yesterday was the what, what service do you provide and product do you sell? And now today we're talking about who. Who is it that you want to serve? Who is it that needs your service? Who are you reaching out to? One of the definitions of marketing that I enjoy is attracting those you want and repelling those you do not want. So who are the people that you want to attract into your space, into your business, who are the customers that actually need the products and services that you are providing? And that is today's focus. So, if you're selling to everyone, you're selling to no one. I love this quote because even with myself, I find myself always trying to be grander and bigger, right? When I think about technology, I think about like Apple. Everybody wants to be Apple, and everyone knows what an iPhone does, and many people want iPhones. There's still some who are anti-iPhone and don't want that, but Apple, they can sell to everyone because they've developed this brand over the course of decades, and they're able to just market to everyone, and they have the budget to do that. But for many of us entrepreneurs, we don't have the budget. We don't have unlimited marketing budgets. We can't pay for ads in a Super Bowl or ads everywhere. So what we may need to do is sort of start small. Start with serving a small section of people that we can serve really well. Um, as I've been learning these different marketing strategies, some of my mentors and coaches and leaders, they can reach more people because they've been doing this for years and they have the credibility to do that. But I am learning these same techniques, and I can't go and just tell everybody, "Hey, I know how to do this thing," because they're going to say, "Well, why you and why not the more famous person?" But none of my coaches, none of the people who've trained me, uh, are part of the LGBTQ community, and none of them have a care or passion for the LGBTQ community. So if they came and tried to serve queer entrepreneurs, um, they would probably do a bad job because they don't know how to be inclusive in their language. They have a lot of assumptions that they just haven't been exposed to. So sometimes if you're able to narrow who you're speaking to, you can more directly speak to them and speak to their needs and their problems. So, uh, yeah. So here is an idea of what it means to actually define your target person and to sort of create that niche. This is a visual that I got from Dean Graziosi, who does a lot of things with Tony Robbins, and he likes to call it the dot, to keep it simple. But sort of the idea is there are billions of people in the world. So who can you start serving? So thinking of how I can get narrower and narrower in who I am serving, so that when you have a message for them, they know you're speaking to them. I think one example I've heard before is the idea of you're out on a crowded street. If someone says, "Buy this from me," um, you know, no one's going to pay attention to them. But if someone said your name, if someone said, "Hey, Justin, I have a product for you," I might turn and look. Um, so when they call you out by name, when they're focused on a smaller set of people, you're able to then see, oh, this is why I would need this. Or they're actually talking to me. This is not just an ad that I'm going to scroll through. So the idea is to find a number of ways to narrow down who you're serving so that your marketing can be clearer. Because if your marketing is speaking to where someone's at, they're going to be more likely to respond to you. They're going to be more likely for it to resonate, and it'll be easier for you to speak to a message uh, of what they're doing. So here's next is an example. So this is one of their examples. So the idea was someone's an artist, and when it comes to art, billions of people like art. Billions of people experience art in a different way. But with each time you sort of narrow down, you can focus. So sort of here it's painting creatively and with spontaneity. That's different than people who may want paint by numbers and want to recreate other people's works of art. And then another way they narrowed down was using water-based paint. So what kind of paint are we using? And then even more narrow for new artists compared to other artists or people who have a lot of experience in a different way. And then what they did to go even further down, the person who was doing this was a parent of a teen, and their idea was also for parents and teens together so that they can bond over this art form. So they went from billions of people to less than that, to possibly millions, maybe even less than that. And if they were to do something like this in a location, we can make it even less. So one of the assignments for today will be to fill out something like this, to be able to sort of say, we're starting super broad, and each time we add a level, we're getting narrower and narrower. And the goal is for you to be able to, the more specific you are, the easier it is to talk to that person. The easier it is for your marketing to reach someone else. When you stay super general and broad, people will see it as super general and broad. So that's the goal of today's topic and part of today's assignment. So I mentioned some of this earlier, but why would you do this? Why would you micro niche? Why would you go down and specific? By having that specialization, you can get more of your ideal clients. If you're focused on, so yesterday Michelle talked about her business credit line. If she's offering business credit to any business in the world, they may not see it's for them. But if she were to focus on people who have an idea and need, X amount of dollars to start a contract with a manufacturer, for example. Then the marketing can be to people with manufacturing ideas. Um, do you need $30,000 to get your first prototypes so that you can build your business and have a proof of concept? That's a very more specific message, but that doesn't resonate with someone who's been running a company for many years, someone who might need more money to do things, or someone who already has access to all that capital. So by narrowing down, you can find those ID clients, and they can hear you better, and you can speak to them better. Also, when you're focused on a set of people, they're able to experience you more, and there's that sort of recurring buyers, because they know that you can help solve their problem. They know that you are specific to what they need. Um, in terms of like the medical field, if I sprain my ankle, I don't want to go to a general doctor. I may want to go to someone who's like a podiatrist, who knows, here's what's going on. Here's how you should heal yourself, versus someone who has that general knowledge. Also, by focusing on a smaller set of people, you can develop more trust and connection with them. Um, Part of the reason why I'm doing this for queer entrepreneurs is because I'm part of this community too, and I would much rather work with other queer entrepreneurs than working with the general straight population. But also, I can get to know them better. I can't get to know queer entrepreneurs deeply and also get to know, I don't know, like chiropractors out there deeply. Being able to focus the attention allows me to say, all right, let me research what people are doing. Let me research their problems. Let me make my entire marketing all about them, so that they can see me as part of, I'm committed and focused to that. And similarly, it helps me be more direct to them. It's like, hey, queer entrepreneurs, here are some of the things. We've come out in life, let's come out of business. Let's look, when I talked about yesterday about some of the issues happening in the world and the Supreme Court and politics and all that stuff, that's not going to resonate with certain communities, but that does resonate with us, and that helps prove the point of why queer entrepreneurship is so important. Whereas if I'm in a general place, other people may not understand some of our struggles. And then lastly, it makes the marketing more focused. I can just focus on the people I'm trying to serve and not worry about what other people are thinking or what else is going on over there. So that allows me to show up more directly and more specifically and to be of service. So how do we create a micro niche? Here are just some examples of ways you can narrow down who you're serving. So there are things like demographics that are more just set, and there are things like psychographics that are more internal, or so external versus internal, let's say. So like demographics, location, so location, age, education status, financial situations, gender identity. These are things that are about us, sort of externally in some ways. I live in Washington, D.C. If I like to do things in person, or if my service or product was a personal touch, I can't serve people in California. Or I can, it's just a lot different. But if I were to be a local person, all of a sudden I've just narrowed down from 300 something million people in the US to the DC area, which may just be like 4 to 5 million people. Age. There are certain people above a certain age, and actually people below a certain age I probably do not resonate with. I don't have TikTok yet, and I don't know how to use that. And if I were to go there, it would be harder for me to be marketing to people in that demographic, just because that app sort of targets younger people. Similarly, people who are in their 60s and above, who are in retirement, their experience as a retired person, even when it comes to being a queer entrepreneur, that's very different than mine. So I may not be able to serve them at a high level. Similar with education. My background is in technology and tech, so there are a lot of people who are super into tech, who've studied different, who have either higher level degrees or just been really into a specific type of technology. So if I'm narrowing down to people who are senior developers, my marketing is going to be different than people who never coded before and are just wanting to learn, or just wanting to do something with it. Similar with financial situation, and I think this is one of the harder ways to niche down. we all have different products and services, and not everyone can afford all of the products or services that we have. So one of the ideas is, how can we use that to we need to think about the financial situation of who we're trying to serve. Um, if someone came to me and tried to sell me a very expensive sports car, that's not about the life that I live. um, I live in a city, and that's a little bit different. But like, in terms of financial situations, it's what can people actually afford, and am I targeting to the wrong people? You know, am I going to people starting their businesses and trying to sell them something that's high ticket where they don't have the budget to go that far? Or, you know, if I am selling something that's high ticket, how can I find the people who can afford it so that we can actually have customers? Um, and same thing with gender identity. In many of these other programs, they're like males or females. In our queer community, it's very different. Gender is less of a dichotomy of what's going on. But when we are serving people, we can use that. You know, we can think about if something is for gay men or for lesbian women or for bi people in general, and thinking about, okay, if I'm speaking to one specific group, here's how my marketing could talk to them directly. Um, and if I'm speaking to the queer community, here's how I can not make gender this binary thing, since that's not how we experience it. And psychographics, these are, you know, internal things. So interests: do I like art? Do I like sports? Do I like dance? Do I like Broadway? Beliefs: do I believe that you can be queer and Christian, for example? Do I believe that, you know, this political party or that political party is right? Do I believe that this social uh, economic system or that one is correct? Um, by focusing on that, you can let your message speak to those beliefs. And then also how you would serve them. So there are some people who want to do things in person. Some people are great with Zoom and doing things behind a screen. That's another way you can niche down. And that way it's like, all right, I'm only serving people through Zooms, or I want to do in-person retreats, or I want to, you know, have coffee with them in person, and that's how I will like make a sale happen. Um, these are different ways you can focus on what you're doing and in your marketing as well. And then again, what problems do they have? What outcomes do they want? Someone who's beginning maybe to sell online, they might just want to get their first $1,000 to $10,000. Someone who's been doing this a while is maybe trying to go from 25 to 50 or 50 to 100. And the strategies you use are going to be different at those two places, because like the strategy is the same, or the problem and outcome are the same. They want to make more money, they want to have more clients. But what it takes to get from 0 to $20,000 a month or in a time versus 50 to 100 may be slightly different. So looking at where they are and what part of the problem they're at, and also what outcomes. Um, some people at the beginning might need some money to begin with, but afterwards they might need more, you know, referrals. They might be willing to do more things that aren't about the dollars you bring in, but about the connections you're making, knowing that that's an investment into the future. So this slide I think can be used really for the assignment, and thinking about how you can narrow down who you serve, thinking about it from these different bullets, these different ideas, will definitely help you narrow down further. Let's see what else we got. So I might put this picture in the group as the assignment, as just, this is one way for you to think about it. So you can put, what does this have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different levels of targeting, 5 different levels of descriptions to get down. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in. And I would say right now, especially for those who are live, if you can, you know, who do you serve? Like, what are different descriptions that helps people? Who would be your ideal client, and what are different ways you can describe them? I think one of the other struggles that people sometimes have is they might use the same the same idea in different words. So in some of these groups, people like, I help struggling, overwhelmed, stay-at-home moms who don't know what to do. And it's like, okay, you're confused, overwhelmed, and struggling. Those are all sort of the same words. So you didn't really narrow, you just went sideways instead of deep. So thinking of how each descriptor changes who you can talk to. Yeah, so um, my mentor, one of my mentors, Pedro Adeo, he's got the saying that says, carve a niche so tight only you can fit inside. So thinking about who you're serving, how can you be the person who serves them the best, who serves them the most? Being able to say, I'm each descriptor makes the people serving them smaller and smaller. And what that does, it makes your standing in that environment bigger and bigger. So thinking about who are the people that I can bring everything I am and serve them at the highest level. So what I'm asking those who are here, yeah, how about if you can share in the chat, share in the comments, what you do and who you serve, and we can see if we can start doing some of this assignment right now, where it's sort of thinking about what are these levels of descriptions for your ideal client. And my hope is that we can help get you some clarity in who you serve currently and who you can serve at a higher level. Yeah, so do I have any volunteers? You can feel free to raise your hand, or type in the chat. If you raise your hand, I will bring you on and just let you share what's going on. And in the meantime, I'm going to tell a joke because I like to tell jokes and it's a good way to spend time. So I think the joke is, why did why did Tiger Woods replace his diving suit? I'll wait and continue waiting. Because he got a hole in one. See what I did there? Yeah. But let's see. I don't see any hands at the moment. Hey, welcome back, Michelle. So I've been talking about what it means to niche down and thinking about who we serve. And I was just taking some questions or some live coaching or training. So if you want to come on again, we can keep going with some of the progress we made yesterday. I can hear about your homework and some of the next steps. I am here till about 5 minutes to the hour, so I've got about 13 minutes left to help people in ways they see fit. And I went back to the screen about the micro niche. So thinking about who you serve, how can we define some of these areas so that you can focus more on who you're serving? And you can either put words in the chat or you can raise your hand. Okay. Welcome back, Michelle. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. How about you?
I'm great. I'm excited for this next day of this challenge and looking forward to serving. So, yesterday we talked about we were talking about business credit, and were you able to think more about what we talked about, and were you able to think more about that?
Yes. So I really did a lot of research and to find out, exactly what the goal is or what the vision or the mission is of our company. And the one thing that I noticed to be more prevalent is to inspire people to get more out of life, educate people on how to go about it, and provide an opportunity to make it happen.
Okay. So I love that as a vision. I love it as a vision, and um, the thing that so staying on today's topic in terms of narrowing that down, who is someone that you could serve? Um, so we're sort
Well,
of
I actually picked a location,
okay. That's awesome. So
and
what's
I
the
and
location?
I posted in the look. I posted a ad in the location.
Mm-hmm.
Age range, I really haven't marked that down. Education, I haven't marked that down. Final financial situation, either nor gender identity. But I
Okay.
did pick a location.
Awesome. Awesome. It's always good to start. We have to start somewhere, right? Uh,
Right.
and that's great. When you said you made an ad, is this like a Facebook ad?
Yeah, there's a certain location that I want to do business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, why not just post an ad in that location where I want to do business and see what happens? So the first part worked out great. So been getting a lot of people interested in what I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So uh, if I look at this, what are you? What is the ad specifically about?
I can tell you what it says.
That works.
Okay, it says I have always wanted to get my business started in Porterville. Porterville is like a town like an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the time. If you're looking for adventure, if you love if you love helping people and you're coachable and want to learn something new, please respond to this ad. We help the underserved and unserved in our communities to live better financial lives.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. I sort of love the mission of what you're going for. And what I would say is so some of the ways that it sounds like you're niching down, you may not be as what's the word? Intentional about it, but you are. So in terms of this list, some of the things you mentioned are people who like adventure. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned people who like to help others. So
Right.
maybe there's an aspect of volunteering there. You mentioned people who are coachable, so people who are interested in learning new things, possibly even self development. And then you also mentioned helping underserved communities. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things about like Facebook is when you pay them to run ads, they will take your money because that's how they make money. That's how they do business. But they also have different targeting that you can do. Because right now, what they're probably going to do is send this all to Porterville and surrounding areas. And I'm not sure how big that audience size is. But if you're just doing it to Porterville, this might send this to CEOs, to stay-at-home moms who don't want to work. This might send this to people who already have a job and they're overstressed and are just working on that. This might send this to people who have a mortgage that they have to pay, and they may not see the idea of learning as something that is necessary for them. But if you use the like idea, in there's ways you can narrow the audience that it sends it to. So if you went to like narrow the audience and you put things like people interested in adventure, people interested in volunteering, people interested in like entrepreneurship, um, that's one way for your ad to be more effective because then it's showing it to people who match your message.
Okay. So, like, put um, That and say if you're between the age of 22 and 35.
I would so there are different ways to use this niching strategy.
Okay.
So one way to use it is when it comes to Facebook ads in that detailed targeting view to say, okay, these are the people that I'm looking for. And you could put in gender and age and location as the demographic fields. But then in the interests, uh, that's where you get to use this a little bit more because
But
you're
you know
just,
what? I don't use paid ads though.
oh, so you're just like posting this on your Facebook wall.
No, I went to a group and I started posting in a group.
Okay, that's awesome. That's even that is definitely easier. Oops. That is also helpful. But when you think about this, so there's two things I want to say. So one, when it comes to the groups, this might tell you how to find new groups. You know, if you're looking for people in Porterville, if you're looking for an adventure in Porterville type, or whatever area of the country that is, I'm assuming California. Um, this is how you can niche down and find groups of people who are doing that. If you're here about adventure and helping people, and this might be something for entry level people, you can find groups of recently graduated college students, for example. Um,
Hmm.
so with the age, it's not like, hey, if you're 22 to 32, this makes sense, because it might work for anybody. But when you niche down for yourself, now when you go out, you can say, all right, this is probably not for someone who's retired and just wants to vacation for the rest of their life, or this is not for someone who, is running their own business. So you might want to stay away from, CEO Facebook type groups. And when you're talking about it, when you're making your messages in these different groups, you can speak to the different levels of this micro niche, and then the people who read that, they're able to say, "Oh, I like adventure. I like this," and even like if you post a picture, what your picture represents, that is one way to take this micro niche and concept and use it in these different areas. So like with Facebook paid ads, you can use it in the way you target. Um, when you tell people who to send this ad to. In the groups, that's more what you can post and some of the stories that you can post and some of the ways you share your message. So it's the more narrow you can go, the more you can speak to someone directly where they are. And that is a way to use this concept of who am I serving, and the concept of the micro niche to go further, to go deeper in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I do think that's one. You're taking action and posting in groups is important, and in a lot of the organic marketing strategies that people have, that's definitely one of their biggest ways. It's like finding groups that have the types of people you're looking for,
Mhm.
and then sending a message to them, sending a message out there and putting out there and see who responds. And then, following up with those responses just to understand their story a little bit more, and understand if they're actually qualified to take that next step. Some people might like what you say, but they just like it. They're not exactly in the buying mode or in about to buy, but definitely taking action, and posting. And there are ways to call people out without having to, you know, I'm looking for this gender between ages this that. Um, there are other ways, other words that resonate. So if you think
You know,
about,
the group that I really have a problem with
mhm.
is is our own community. Like they don't even want to look at me. They don't want to listen to me. They block my ads. They block my posts. Everything. Like, how do I reach them?
That is hard, and sometimes the way to reach people is to provide a level of value and a story.
Hmm.
Most people don't want to be told what to do. Most people don't want to, most people want to feel independent. And sometimes the way to reach them is through a story. So a story that has a lesson in it that communicates what you want to be communicated. Um,
Well, I did that too. I put the story about how hard it is for us to find someone to accept us. I finally found this company to accept us, and they help us through all these situations to make sure that we're successful.
Hmm.
And they don't, like, every group that I go to, they just like they don't put my post in there, or they block me from the group. I'm like, hey, I'm one of you. Like, look at my picture and
Yeah,
look at my story. I'm transgender. I'm reaching out to a community that I'm supposed to be a part of, and they deny me.
I hear that. I hear that. And one of what I would say is some of these groups, because I think I'm in some of these groups. I might have met you in one of these groups. Um, Especially if they're free groups, some of them can end up being very, very, very spammy, where people don't really give value, people don't really communicate, people don't really talk. They just,
Hmm.
here's my ad, here's the thing I want to do, join my business, here's what's
Yeah,
happening. And
I don't do that. I try
yeah,
very hard not to do that.
um,
Unless it's a group like people looking for work, people looking for opportunities, then I will I will show the opportunity. But for the most part, when I join a group, I always look at the group first to see what the group is about
that's
before I even post anything in a group.
yeah. And I would say some of those groups are just not the right groups for you. Like
Hmm.
some of the groups might be, you might have to find a more community-based group,
Hmm.
and then again, leading with value and not really leading with the pitch. So
Right.
maybe it's just telling your story and how you found connection and affirmation from a company, and not saying come work for this company immediately. Maybe it's just
Right.
showing who you are, showing up authentically, and why this company resonated with you, or just showing how you grow as a person. Uh,
Hmm.
Sometimes that is a way to connect, because then you might actually develop connections with these people, actually friend them on Facebook, and then on your personal profile you can have that balance where you're both sharing your stories, sharing your life, and sharing how your business is working and how you've been able to help people. And then when people see that, those who are looking for an opportunity to help, um, they might connect with you. Those who are looking for new opportunities to gain money and serve specific populations, they might say, "Hey, how can I help?" Or like, "I saw you post about this. Can you tell me more?" Sometimes that is one of the challenges with just advertising, especially today. So whether it's organically in these groups or on your profiles, or even using Facebook ads or TikTok ads or whatever, um, people are seeing a lot of things. So you have to think about how can I make my message so concise and specific so that when someone does see it, they'll say, "Oh, this is talking to me." And that sort of ties back into the conversation of the micro niche of defining your who, knowing who you serve, because then all of your messaging on all wherever you are, you can you're not just posting in this group, you are posting to this type of person in this group. You're posting to this type of person in this environment. And then if you're very specific about the type of person you're posting about, and you're using words that resonate, you're using ideas that resonate, you're talking about the things they also believe in, they will be able to see what your message is. Your message will stand out to them when that's going on. So that's sort of the concept of the micro niche and why it's important. Um, and then when you're finding new Facebook groups, if you have these different levels, you might find groups that like just Porterville, for example, right? If there's local Porterville groups, what are those groups about? Is there one about adventure and volunteering? Is there one about mentoring or tutoring, where people are like, I'm helping people in these other situations? Um, that might be ways for you to narrow down who you serve. And once you narrow down who you serve, if they read it, they'll be like, "Huh, this is me. This message ticks off things I believe. This message is about where I live in. This message is about what I'm interested in. This message, this person also wants to change the world the way I want to change the world." It'll make it much easier for them to say, "Let me see more about what you're about. Let me understand your story." Um, and and yeah, and I will say one other thing about the groups. There's a lot of spammy groups, and that's just part of Facebook, part of life these days. Um,
Hmm.
but when you're more focused on who you're going for, you can find the groups that are more about connection, and you have to also be that person of connection. You know, knowing that not everybody needs what I have, and that's okay. And how can you show up
So
authentically?
Halloween makeup, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh,
I'm like in I think I just counted seven seven groups of LGBTQ plus, and I've posted I've posted like stuff, the encouraging things. I've posted motivational posts. I've posted nothing at all about business, and the admins just block me.
um, that is also fair. And everyone who has someone had to make each of these groups, and a lot of the groups now are becoming more moderated, so they won't even, you post and it says it's pending. And the only thing I would say is, if you want to stay in some of those groups, reach out to the admin and say, I want to make this post. Why wasn't it approved, or why was it blocked? And
Hmm.
they might tell you, this is a group that I'm using to get clients, and I don't want anyone else posting. They have their own reasons, and then you just have to respect that, and keep moving.
Well,
So
I know that in a group you can, if you have a group and you don't want people to post, you can turn that off so nobody else is posting but you.
yeah, and that's what some people do. You just have to
Mm.
think about, if that's the group you're in, then you're probably not going to get your message out there, and that's okay.
Right. Hmm.
But thank you for sharing, and for that post. And I guess I just want to remind people, um, um, so that was today's topic, is about the micro niche, thinking about different ways you can narrow who you are serving. And once you are able to do that, that'll help you in your marketing be more specific. So whether it's Facebook groups, Facebook ads, or other groups, or just talking to people, by being more focused and specific in who you serve, it'll make your message stronger. Um, so the assignment for today is share the 5 to 7 descriptions of your ideal client. When Michelle was talking, we talked about a location like Porterville. Um, the idea of people who want to help others, people who want to learn and be coachable, people who are interested in adventure. Um, each of those blocks helps create this idea of an ideal client. And when you have that ideal client, when you start showing up, you can look at your ideal client, you can see how you define them, and then you can look at your marketing and say, is my marketing speaking to all of these levels? What are some of the what level can I speak to more of? Do I want to speak to adventure today? Do I want to speak to volunteering today? Those are some ways for you to be able to use the strategy of a micro niche, strategy of defining an ideal client, and following through, um, implementing that in your marketing so that your message can be stronger. So uh, that's the assignment for day 2. I would love for you to post about it inside our Facebook group. Everyone should be allowed to make posts in it. And if you have any questions, definitely put them in there. And I will look this afternoon to see how I can answer any, provide some support, provide some guidance. And I hope this was helpful. And I will see you all tomorrow. Uh, Take care, everyone. Bye. Stop live stream and stop recording.